Let's get into the conversation right now with Rita Panahi, Joe Hildebrand, lady, lad. Lovely to see you both. How are we?
Lovely to see you, sir. Great.
Now, obviously, Rita, I mean, such diversity today, such history today. Two people with private sector experience have now made their way to the cabinet table of Australia. It fills me with a confidence that can only be equalled by the big state governments of Victoria and Queensland. They're in it for us, mate.
Well, you know what? It's the sort of diversity that the left celebrates, the type that matters least. Capability, diversity of thought, that doesn't matter. Diversity of background, it's all about things that are identifiable, that you have absolutely no control over, like your gender or your race. That's the sort of diversity that the left is obsessed with. And yeah, I would, like you, feel a lot more comfortable if there was a bit more private sector experience within the cabinet, and just also regard for the private sector, not just the experience, but some sort of understanding of how crucial that sector is, particularly small business, to the success of this nation, to the success of so many households. And certainly, when you live in Victoria, you get the feeling that it's just something that the Labor governments don't care that much about. I hope it's different with this new Albanese government.
Well, also, we saw in Victoria that, big unions were able to keep going with construction projects. Big business was able to be taken care of. Small business gets crushed and you get fined, what, $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 if you open 1 minute later than when the state decided, bang, it's time to close. So, Joe.
Yes.
You have greater faith in the Prime Minister than I do.
Yep.
Of all the promises of not woke and all the rest of it here, he's off to a good start with all the things that you say. But of course you say that. Everyone buys a new car and says, I'm never going to eat in it. Within 3 months, there's nugget wrappers everywhere, right? We know how this works. Here's the problem, right? This is the fundamental flaw in the design of the Labor Party, is that it is great at taking people from whatever level of obscurity, moving them through reserve grade, blooding them and making them all ministers. But when you look around a cabinet table that's running the country, that basically one of its major sources of income is company tax, and only two people have run a business, one of which is their own freaking wine label, it hardly fills you with confidence.
Yeah, look, to be honest, I don't really get into the whole ticker box identity politics, whether it comes to gender or race or what your former job was.
Experience?
Or experience. Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm not sure how many people in the Liberal Party caucus would
when they do the shadow cabinet, I will do exactly the same.
Would have run a small business, because the usual rule of thumb, if you look at the Nats, they're all former farmers. If you look at the Libs, they're all former lawyers. And if you look at the Labor Party, they're all former unionists. And that's just part of, I suppose, the background they come from. I don't think, as long as they're talking to people in small business and they understand or are getting told what the issues are, then I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. They've kept the portfolio of small business in cabinet. I think that is a terrific move. I mean, you can roll your eyes, but would you rather they booted it out?
No. I'll tell you why I roll my eyes. No, I'll get you to pick up in a second. I'll tell you why I roll my eyes at it, right? Because it's thrown in with the Minister for Housing. All right, is that it is a very specific standalone thing. They wanted to avoid the criticism of it's not in cabinet. So let's wedge it on to a greater priority, that is housing, to say it's in cabinet. That's why I roll my eyes.
Oh, I don't think so. I mean, you've got people, the Minister for Education until recently was also the Minister for Women. Now, you're not saying that those are the same two things. It's just someone happens to have two portfolios. The Minister for Environment and the Arts, also, again, the same person at a different time.
No, I get it, but I'm saying if you're the new broom, you want total focus. I don't think small business on its own is big enough to be a single cabinet portfolio. So again, if you want it in cabinet, you would pair it with something else. But I don't think the fact that you're not saying, we're only going to listen to small businesses who are in the business of social housing or creating housing, because that's not what small businesses do anyway. What I'm saying is that, and this again is a problem with the design of the system, where there's limits on the number of people you can have in a cabinet, the limits on the number of people you can have in the ministry, which I know is all a legal thing, but it's about trying to avoid the optics of it's not a real priority for us, but we don't want to be criticised for it being on the outside, because that was a problem for Rudd Gillard Rudd with 6 different.
No, he's been outspoken. I don't think that's fair. He's been outspoken in his support for small business. He's done nothing bad against small business. He's kept small business in the cabinet.
Look,
I don't see the evidence.
I'm not pretending they didn't win, and it's not historic and it's not amazing. But welcome to defence. Welcome to defence and having to defend it all for the next 3 years. Jump in there, Rita.
Well, I just want to mention, you mentioned the Minister for Housing sharing the small business portfolio. have we spoken yet about their absolutely insane shared housing scheme? Something that they sort of presented, which was very quickly had massive holes you could drive a truck through, revealed, which they had no answers to.
40% of your house.
Well, yeah. Well, you only need a 2% deposit. Anytime you want to do any improvements, if you want to put up a fence or paint the spare room, you have to get a new valuation. So when you sell it, you get the credit for the money you spent on those improvements. I mean, it is an absolutely bureaucratic nightmare, and it's now going to be implemented. And again, this is, I think, something that they put up so many of these thought bubbles before the election, and now their election promises, they're going to go ahead and implement them. And my God, that policy alone has the capacity to just cause enormous chaos.
I got a feeling it's a little bit of fuel watching.
That policy is firstly, it's only targeted at 10,000 people, so a tiny percentage of the housing market. It has got nowhere near the level of criticism that the coalition's plan to rip out your super and actually cost yourself money by taking money.
So
that would
you
be
won
worth
the argument, you won the election.
Later
But
on.
remember, the state-based scheme...
Sorry, owning your own house is bad. Sharing the house with Albo and the Mean Girls is a fantastic idea. I mean, these shared housing schemes have been tried elsewhere. They have almost always failed. And you can say it's limited to 10,000. A bad idea is a bad idea, and there's no guarantee it won't be expanded to 20,000,
I'd rather share a house with the government than not have a house. That's the whole point. It's not like these people are owning all their houses otherwise, and the government's coming in and saying, oh, we'll have a bit of that.
But look,
this is to actually enable them to be able to do it.
Let me build a bridge, all right? The one thing that I am looking forward to about this government is I am looking forward to the social housing stuff, right?
Yeah,
I like the idea of tens of thousands of social housing homes. I like it being mixed in. We can't pretend that you can have, in New South Wales alone, 60,000 people waiting for public. Somebody has to do something about it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's different than the 2%, 40% ownership stuff, and you having to give it up if you get a pay rise, or having to give the profit back on sale. That's my issue.